2016, under the Barack Obama administration. In 2016, the Bureau of Engraving, the U.S. Treasury, the Bureau of Printing and Engraving, whatever that bureau is that, prints up the U.S. greenback jacks, whatever that Bureau of Engraving and Printing, whatever that bureau is called, they had already printed up the Harriet Tubman. They already had a stamp. Where is the Harriet Tubman now? Steve Mnuchin. Hey, Steve Mnuchin, where are the Harriet Tubmans? Where are the $20 bills? The $20 Harriet Tubmans. You got that Tubman? Hey, it's all about them Tubmans. Harriet Tubman's going to be the first woman on the dollar bill in 100 years. First black woman ever on a dollar bill. The design of the bill was far along. They was almost, even though they already had the engraving plate. May 2018, the engraving plate was already finished. The design's already finished. All they got to do is just start printing up. But, Steve Mnuchin, Steve Mnuchin, Mr. $4.5 trillion motherfucker, the Secretary of Treasury, Secretary of Treasury. He was talking about the Tubmans, and he's like, we haven't made a bunch of bullshit. We haven't made any decision about whether to change the bill or not, developing new security features to prevent counterfeiting. We're working on new security features. Oh, yeah. Okay, security features. So you got to put a watermark or some fucking shit on it. What about the $1 bill? There's no security features on the $1 bill. Developing new security features. What a bunch of fucking horse shit. What do you got to do? Put a watermark and put some sort of holographic image on it? Do that metallurgic ink. There's some metallurgic paper, metallurgic ink or some shit. They got some fancy fucking shit out there. Just, get that technology and get it fucking done. What do you mean? We're developing new security features. We're developing. Steve Mnuchin, the lying piece of shit. He's such a fucking asshole. You seen him at that press conference when he was like, step back, everybody, like he's a fucking god. Fuck Steve Mnuchin, that fucking piece of shit. Yeah, you go ahead and get the pittance. It was his deal, right? He's the one that said, give the American people a pittance. They'll sell the financial industry back to us. Yeah, they'll take the $1,200 and think it's fucking great and sell us the financial industry. Oh, shit. We'll give them $1,200 and we'll take from them the U.S. dollar. Steve fucking Mnuchin. Fucking Mnuchin. So he's this whole thing about Harriet Tubman, it matters. It matters for many reasons. It's symbolic. It's symbolic, because Andrew Jackson is a racist piece of shit. Harriet Tubman was a freedom fighter. And so the decision was made in 2016. They're working on it, still working on it. It's Donald Trump. He was talking about how, goddamn Andrew Jackson is the greatest motherfucker in the world. So, Mr. fucking borderline racist, maybe not, outright, but sort of like he's got friends in the Klan, but he's not, he's not going to the Klan meetings. So, racist light, like racist light. But racist, okay? So this is racist bullshit. Fucking Jesus Christ. Donald even said, that's the face you want on our money? That's the face? Yes, that's exactly the fucking face I want on the money. Because she's such, in fact, that's such how super fucking official. But the person, who she was and what she was about is more important. I mean, her face is who represents her, but is that who she is? Is she her face? Is she her body? She's dead and gone now, right? So, no, she's a legacy. She is her spirit. And something she said about the slaves, because she rescued thousands, hundreds and thousands of slaves. She started out with just, before the Civil War, just, about 70. But after the Civil War, or during the Civil War, she fought for the Union. So she rescued thousands of slaves. But she said she could have rescued thousands, maybe millions more, if only they knew that they were slaves. So she's brilliant, she's smart, she's intelligent, she gives a shit. What a fucking badass to keep going back down to the Confederate fucking racist, racist slave South when there was slavery and shit. Talk about a goddamn apartheid, just a racial dictatorship, just a totalitarian racial fucking tyranny. Munition. So this is fucking bullshit. They're sitting there dragging their feet and they're giving all these bullshit. Munition, fuck his stupid name. It's hard to fucking say. Mnuchin, what is that? We need to check his green card. Is he even American? Mnuchin. So $20 ain't coming out of 2020 no more. It was supposed to come out in 2020, right? May 18th, they already had the engraving plate, they already had the design, but no, we're going to go ahead and, delay. And then they're saying it's about the design process, that you already had the design. And then Mnuchin said no new imagery is going to be unveiled until 2028. Okay, 2028, meaning when Donald Trump fucking steps down, then, perhaps we'll get the fucking Tubman. We're printing up $4.5 trillion right now. None of those $4.5 trillion are Harriet Tubmans. More fucking Andrew Jacksons. Let's spread Andrew Jacksons in everybody's hands. Even though we got $1,200 in our pocket, they took the dollar, and then they, took the purchasing power and they took the dollar down. So we actually got $1,100. We didn't get $1,200 because the dollar's worth less now. And then he also says brand new designs of the $10 bill and the $50 bill are going to come out before the 20. So look at all the fucking politics. This should be a simple decision. Jesus Christ, I feel like states should just talk about their state birds and state fucking flowers and shit all the goddamn time. This is important. This is who we are as a country. I can't stand that fucking a slave owner, George Washington's on the $1 bill, let alone the $20 bill. Andrew Jackson was such a piece of shit. Just read Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States just over and over again. Andrew Jackson, I guess he's like a man's man. He's rugged, right? He's doing all these duels and shit. He was a slave owner. He was a slave trader. He murdered Indians left and right, and that's like how he became, known. That's how he became known by, killing Indians, and then when he became president, instituted the Trail of Tears. So he's a fucking racist piece of shit. Yeah, maybe back in those days, racism was totally fine and dandy, but I'm going to judge Andrew Jackson by today's standards, and he's a piece of shit. Harriet Tubman's a badass. Nothing bad could be said about Harriet Tubman. And what, she's got a bad face? She got her head, when she was like 10 years old, her master slammed her head down and cracked her skull, so she had seizures and head injury throughout. So did, her master, her white master, slamming her head, her skull and cracking her skull. Maybe that had something to do with, the way that she looked. And she doesn't look horrid. It's not terrible. And the picture that they picked of her actually seems very nice and respectable. I'm down with, Harriet Tubman on our $20 bill. I think it's fantastic. I think it's great. There was a long process. In 2016, Obama's U.S. Treasury Secretary, it wasn't Obama, it was Jack Lew. Jack Lew did this. He asked the public, what do you think? 10 months, right? 10-month process, got input from the public. They had about 4 or 5 of them. It came down to Eleanor Roosevelt, Elizabeth Cady Stanton. Harriet Tubman won out. So Harriet Tubman won. And so Harriet Tubman is going to be on the $20 bill whether you like it or not. Donald doesn't want to see the fucking thing, so we're going to, appease this little crybaby just because he's I saw him, salute. There was a picture of him, he's stopping, he bitched about this. He said something about it's pure political correctness that Harriet Tubman is, getting on the Andrew Jackson, taking his place on the $20 bill. And so Donald Trump is just going over and beyond about how much he fucking loves Andrew Jackson. And, he even took a picture of himself saluting Andrew Jackson's grave. And the caption was we thank you for your service and your memory, and we want to build on your legacy. Thank God for the USA. So we want to build on your legacy. The legacy of what? Genocide? Murdering Native Americans left and right? And, the one thing, he hated the banks, so, Donald could actually fucking learn from Andrew Jackson with hating the bank. But no, he's in, friendship with Mnuchin. Steve, Mnuchin and fucking Donald are best fucking buds, so he's no Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson would, kick Steve Mnuchin's, butt, his ass butt. And so, Andrew Jackson hated the banks. He would, the thought of giving $4.5 trillion to the central bank, that would absolutely, Andrew Jackson wouldn't stand for that shit. So he says we're going to build on the legacy, not the legacy of, questioning the central bank. What fucking legacy is he talking about? What legacy of Andrew Jackson's besides, the Trail of Tears and smashing the banks? He's did a bunch of duels and shit, but he just killed Native Americans left and right, the Red Sticks and the Chickasaw, the Cherokee, the Creek. and then the Trail of Tears. So, yeah, he makes fun of Harriet Tubman's face. He's very superficial, doesn't give a shit about her legacy. Think about slavery. Think about how racist slavery was back in the times of... Think about how bad racism was back in the times of slavery. That's when Harriet Tubman was going around rescuing, other slaves. She went through slavery, and it was fucking bullshit, and she fought for her freedom. And she was, a good example for everybody in her time and for everybody's time, for all time. Do I want to see Harriet Tubman's face on the $20 bill? You goddamn right I do. You goddamn right I do. That makes up for all the fucking slavery and racist genocide bullshit. At least helps, right? It's all symbolic, but it helps. And the $2 bill, Donald says we should put Tubman on the $2 bill. $2 bills are collectibles. That's, at least something. Don't give it to Tubman, give it to somebody else. Who's on the $2 bill? I'm not for sure. I mean, put somebody on the $2 bill that's memorable. The $2 bills will fucking go off the shelves and be great collector's items. Fucking Donald. Jesus Christ. Now they're saying 2030, 2028, 2030 is when we're going to see the Tubmans coming out. Oh, yeah, keep waiting, keep pushing, kicking the can down the road 10 more years. Maybe in 10 more years we'll actually see. So I got a passage out of a People's History of the United States, and then also got some facts about Harriet Tubman. Let's just compare and contrast the two, right? Andrew Jackson, slave owner, ethnic cleanser, Indian killer, Trail of Tears. He did say one badass thing to the Supreme Court. I mean, tactics and, when it comes to tactics, it's, terrible that it's helping Andrew Jackson, but if you had a Bernie Sanders, as president, then this would be a badass thing. So the Supreme Court issues a shitty ruling. So he was doing the, Trail of Tears, and the Supreme Court said that's, illegal. That's constitutionally illegal. You can't do the Trail of Tears. And then Andrew Jackson said, well, you all made your ruling. Let's see you enforce it. So basically, bring it on, motherfuckers. Let's do this. I'm the president. I'm ordering, and I'm going this direction. So you're the Supreme Court. All right, you say it's unconstitutional. I say it's constitutional. Now what are we going to do? Yeah, well, we disagree, so now what are we going to do? Let's see you enforce your fucking ruling. So, that kind of shows you the division of powers. It's not bullshit, but essentially I think the Supreme Court probably could have arrested them, right? I mean, shit, that's the Supreme Court, the law of the land. Why, you're not going to enforce your own rulings? And like I said before, he really hated the central bank. He said the bank tried to kill him, but he killed it. Jackson said that the American people knew about the rank injustice of our money and banking system, our financial monetary system. There would be a revolution before morning. So Donald can learn from his hero, Andrew Jackson, and stop giving the central banks $4.5 trillion. But I don't think he likes Andrew. He don't know Andrew Jackson enough to, say anything about him. He don't like Andrew. He likes his racism. That's all he likes is his fucking racism. Harriet Tubman's, abolitionist, fought a Union soldier. She's, she was fought on the side of the Union. She was a Union soldier, fought for Lincoln, fought for America, fought for, black liberation, which also was white liberation, too. So, Underground Railroad conductor, thousands. She rescued thousands. So, in the People's History of the United States on page 127 on the very bottom, we're looking at the kind of man that Andrew Jackson was. Okay, so in 1813, he's fighting these people called the Red Sticks. So the Creeks, they're part of Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi, the Creek Native Americans, the Creek Indians. Now, half the Creeks were, for the white man, and the other half were antagonistic and just want to be left in peace. Now, there was the Red Sticks were the ones that were saying, no, we got to fight the white man, and we got to, fight for our land, fight for our culture. And they massacred 250 people at Fort Mims, and then Andrew Jackson burned down a Creek village, whether or not they had to do with the Red Sticks or not, killing men, women, and children. Okay, so he established a tactic of promising rewards in land and plunder if either party, Cherokees, friendly Creeks, or whites, takes property of the Red Sticks. Andrew Jackson says the property belongs to those who take it. Okay, so, it seems like eye for an eye, right? Some Native American, the Creeks, whatever. So, perhaps it's right, perhaps it's wrong. But listen to this. Not all his enlisted men were enthusiastic for the fighting. There were mutinies. So he's got volunteers. He's got Americans just voluntarily saying, okay, let's do this. So if they're volunteers, you got to feed them every fucking day. And they're volunteers. You should be paying their soldiers, right? You're supposed to respect the soldiers. Andrew Jackson didn't respect the American soldier. Now, why are there mutinies? The men were hungry. American soldier was hungry and starving. Their enlistment terms were up. It was time for them to go home. They weren't getting paid. They were tired of fighting. All the spoils were going to the commanders and generals and to the wealthy. It wasn't like they were. Jackson wrote to his wife that the once brave and patriotic volunteers sunk to mere whining, complaining seditioners and mutineers when a 17-year-old soldier who had refused to clean up his food and threatened his officer with a gun was sentenced to death by a court-martial. Andrew Jackson turned down a plea for commutation of sentence and ordered the execution to proceed. And then Andrew Jackson walked out of earshot of the firing squad. So a 17-year-old, he refused to clean up his food. The officer is like, you better fucking clean up your food, boy. And then he gets pissed off, pulls a gun out, and the officer, Andrew Jackson, says, nope, enough is enough. Fuck you, 17-year-old American soldier. And fucking killed him like a dog. Ordered, a firing squad to fucking kill him. To fucking kill a 17-year-old American soldier. Too young to even be out, fighting in the damn thing to begin with. And then the whole thing, cleaning up his food. Shit, that seems pretty, you're gonna get on my case about cleaning up my fucking food. Not your fucking bitch. Get the fuck, let me eat in goddamn peace, motherfucker. And that's not great that he did that, but I'm just saying that he put him to fucking death. He's a soldier. You guys have guns all the fucking time. He's being a dick about my fucking food. Jesus fucking Christ, I'm a goddamn American soldier. Can't I fucking eat in peace? And then the other thing, there is essentially the way that Andrew Jackson had his, whole idea, his, policy, his military policy was you would have to whip them. So if somebody deserted, you got to take them back and you got to whip them, with a whip, like not just spanking them or whatever, but actually take a fucking whip. And you got to do that 2 times at least. They desert, whip them. They desert again, whip them. And if they desert a 3rd time, you fucking kill them. You kill them. You don't want to go kill all these Native Americans. You don't want to kill all these Native Americans in Florida who, were in this country long before we got here. You don't want to murder men, women, and children of these Native Americans. Then we're going to kill you. You either kill or be killed. And he killed a 17-year-old, and that was his fucking policy, was to, whip the deserters twice at least, and then to put them to death. So that's a little taste of Andrew Jackson. You're a little 17-year-old. You're like, I'm going to stand with Jackson. I'm going to fight with Andrew Jackson. He's doing something. He's doing the country a good, service. And I'm going to fight with Andrew Jackson. And then all of a sudden, some dumb shit happens at the fucking mess hall because an officer wants to keep on fucking with you, and now you're dead. Now you're in a fucking firing squad. In a time of pretty much peace, right? They're over there and we're over here and shit. Florida, it's Georgia, but most of America. So Jesus Christ, you're having all this fucking wartime measures in a time of peace. War of 1812, I guess, was from 1812 to 13, 14, 15. So to the 15. So, whatever. They just use that as a fucking excuse to kill Native Americans. Oh, you're for the British, right? No, we're against you, and the British are against you, so, you're assuming that we're, kind of in cahoots. Maybe there's a common enemy there, but that's, no, we're not for the British. We're for ourselves. We're fighting for our own land, and we're fighting for our own people and our own freedom. But Andrew Jackson didn't give a fuck about that. Nah, he's gonna fucking make them walk a trail of tears. They're gonna die, starvation and shit. The man, the main chief, his wife is gonna die on the damn thing. So Jesus Christ, that's who fucking Andrew Jackson was. 200 years ago, how many presidents? It does. One thing I'll say about Andrew Jackson, he led the country. So love him or hate him, he definitely took this country in a very specific direction. Because when I look at all the other presidents, Calvin Coolidge, James Garfield, fucking, James Buchanan, Ulysses S. Grant, Taft, I don't know what they fucking did. I do, because, I study history a lot, But essentially, they didn't do, something that was like really fucking, that just, lingered and stayed with America for years and years and years. We only got a couple presidents that were really stuck out. Andrew Jackson was one. The first couple, right, Adams and Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, but you got Abraham Lincoln, you got JFK, Ronald Reagan, he brought the whole, government is the problem sort of philosophy to the forefront. But, he led, I guess W led, so there's, I don't know, it's just interesting to think about throughout history how most American presidents are very forgettable. Andrew Jackson is not forgettable, but neither is Harriet Tubman. So Harriet Tubman, she's born into slavery in eastern Maryland between 1820 and 1821. We don't know her actual birthday, right? She's just a slave, so she's just chattel. So she's just a baby, of animals or property. So they didn't think to write her birthday down. And then they said something about how she just hated how, her masters were just so cruel to her and all her people, and she just wanted to, free every single one. She said every drop of blood in her veins wanted to free all of her people. As a child, she received a severe head injury. She was doing errands, and an overseer tried to stop a runaway slave by throwing a 2-pound weight at him, but he hit Harriet Tubman instead, who was standing nearby the runaway, and caused her skull to crack. Her health was affected for the rest of her life, often in the form of seizures. She escaped slavery and returned to Maryland in 1850, 10 years before the Civil War, as an Underground Railroad conductor, rescuing over 70 slaves before the Civil War broke out. And she didn't fail a single time. She got the nickname Moses. So she started to do this when she heard that her niece was going to be auctioned off. So you could just look at her face. She's strong and sturdy. You could see how, it would be hard to oppress a person, with her sort of demeanor. And why was she so mad and angry? Well, shit, she was born in a goddamn backwards, upside-down society where the entire population, all the white people were part of this fucking slavery bullshit, and she knew it to be wrong. And then she saw her niece about to go up to the auction block, and she was like, no, fuck this shit. I'm done. I'm done with this shit, and then changed and started rescuing people left and right. She employed numerous disguises on her first successful attempt to escape from slavery. She would pretend to be a field hand by walking around with chickens, or a house servant when she stayed at the home of an abolitionist couple. One notable disguise she was pretending to read a newspaper to allay suspicion, as she was known to be illiterate. She employed spirituals and songs as coded messengers to her followers. So she's using spirituals and songs, so, take me to the river. I don't know the spirituals, but if it was take me to the river, meaning take me to the river, because that's where your freedom is and your ride's here. Tubman joined the Union Army as a nurse, but also as a scout and a spy behind enemy lines. Fucking Union soldier, an American soldier, one of the most, so talk about disrespecting American soldiers. First, Andrew Jackson didn't give a shit about that 17-year-old, let him get fucking shot in the fucking head. An American, boy, 17-year-old, let him get shot in the fucking head because he had a shitty officer that was fucking with him. And that was his policy. So no telling how many people he murdered just because they didn't want to murder Native American children. You kill that Cherokee baby right now. You kill them Cherokees, Chickasaw babies. Oh no, you're running away. Bam, right through the head. So he didn't give a fuck about the American soldiers. You obey, okay? You don't fucking question. You just fucking obey. You don't have any sense or consciousness. Don't you have a goddamn conscience? What the fuck? This is war. One of the most famous missions she took part in was a raid on Combahee Ferry in South Carolina. During this raid, she worked with Union Colonel James Montgomery to free over 700 slaves at once. At one point after the war, her financial situation became dire. She fell prey to a gold smuggling con, and then her family and friends helped her. Like many other high-profile women over time, she became heavily involved with promoting women's suffrage with figures like Susan B. Anthony. So she's also fighting for all women's right to vote. Didn't just fight for black folks, the liberation of black folks. Now she's fighting for the right of all women to get the right to vote. Isn't that amazing. She just didn't stop, just an absolute locomotive, just kept on going. She underwent brain surgery in 1890s to alleviate the headaches she had suffered for most of her life because of the white master that bashed her head in and cracked her skull. Didn't bash her head in, but threw that stone, right? Throwing a stone. Hey, run away, you come back here. Throws a stone. She just happens to be standing there. Why would he throw a stone with another person standing so damn close? He didn't care. He didn't think that she was a person. So Harriet Tubman died in the home for the aged she herself had founded. Oh, when she did the brain surgery, she refused anesthesia for the operation, just like Union soldiers did during the Civil War. You want some anesthesia? No, fucking cut up on my brain with me awake. So that way I know exactly what the fuck you motherfuckers are up to. She was buried with military honors in the Fort Hill Cemetery in Auburn, New York, which includes other figures like the Secretary of State, William Seward. So that's battlefields.org. And those are just top 10 wow facts you didn't know about Harriet Tubman. So he's a better person, frankly. Motherfucker gets into a position of power, still acts like a fucking savage. Talk about natives being savage. Andrew Jackson was a goddamn savage. And Harriet Tubman was just, salt of the earth, regular person, regular average American, regular, working class person. Saw the bullshit that is slavery, fought against an entire institution, an entire nation of white people that went along with fucking slavery. But there was a few and enough of them, so she got, in contact with the abolitionists and helped to rescue her friends and her family and all the other slaves that were willing to come with her. But a lot of slaves didn't even know that they were slaves. They didn't even know that they were slaves, and so they wouldn't even go. But, Harriet Tubman is a figure for freedom, a figure for liberation. It corrects the record that fucking Andrew Jackson had, soiled. So a lot of, the beginning of America starts with a lot of bloodshed, slavery, genocide, and shit. And so the people that say, let's live together with Native Americans, let's live together with black folks, let's stop this fucking slavery bullshit, let's stop the genocide, we're, kumbaya, we're all one. Fuck this. I mean, why didn't they go with integration? Why couldn't Andrew Jackson, do integration back then, instead doing this forced Trail of Tears and killing, Native Americans left and right? Because to them, they're inferior and shit, so it was just straight up racism. Let's put those brown natives over in Oklahoma. Get them out of Georgia. Get them out of, Mississippi and Alabama. Get those damn natives out of here. Why? Why couldn't they stay right there? Even black and whites went, there was slavery, but it was segregation. So once black folks became free, then black folks lived on the opposite side of town. The white folks didn't say, let's just ship all these, black folks out of here and terrorize them until they get the fuck out of here. That's what happened to the Native Americans. So it wasn't just saying, okay, you can live on the opposite side of town. No, you got to get to another state. You got to get to another country. We don't want to see your face. We don't want to know you. So the original sin, we don't want to see the original sin right in front of our faces. We don't want to see our original sin right in front of our eyes. So Harriet Tubman being on the 20 corrects, lots of racial injustice. It's a symbolic thing, very fucking important, but he's a slave owner just like George Washington owned 300 slaves. George Washington bought teeth from his slaves. It's not wooden teeth that he had, it was slaves' teeth that he used. He used the teeth of slaves. So that's who George Washington is. He could never tell a lie. He was a fucking liar his whole goddamn life. So the fact that our $1 bill has a slave owner, our $20 bill has a slave owner, I mean, do we fucking support slavery still today? No, we don't. Yeah, okay, back in their time they were, liberals and they were revolutionary and they changed shit for the better so we could get to where we're at now. Give them credit, give credit where credit is due. But to judge them by our standards today, we live today. We trade with the dollar today. So if I go to, China, if I go to Germany and I give them my $1, my $20 bill, I'm saying that, my currency represents slave owners. I give them a $20 bill and it's Harriet Tubman. This is saying I fucking represent, liberation and freedom. Also black women. So I think, if you're an African American or an African person, how would you like the face of all the U.S. money being slave-owning pieces of shit, treated black people like second-class citizens, like, cattle, like chattel, used violence to, make sure that they submitted. Andrew Jackson's a piece of shit. He's a slave owner, slave trader, killed Native Americans left and right, and even Andrew Jackson was into bullshit, and he was like, listen, there is nobody who respects the Aborigine more than me. All I'm saying is, you know, get them their own land and just clear the land for us so we could do our thing, and then maybe they could do their thing. Maybe they could go Christian, but maybe not. Who knows? But clear them out so we could do our thing and let them do their